Welcome everybody to our World Poetry Day event, brought to you by WORDStafford and Stone Scribblers. We obviously were going to have the event in Stone Library, but global events have made that unrealistic and somewhat unsafe, and of course our health matters more than anything. But rather than cancel, we thought we'd try something new for us. So here we are in cyberspace, trying in our own way to celebrate World Poetry Day. We have poets and spoken word artists from across the county who have words to share. So please have a watch and have a listen. Keep an eye on our future events too, as we're working on ways to make these truly live and interactive experiences on the internet. Without further ado, I'll hand you over to Mel Woodward, Staffordshire Poet Laureate, who will introduce our talented wordsmiths. You'll hear a bit more from me later.
Good morning everyone, and thank you very much for joining us on this very unusual World Poetry Day 2020. It's certainly going to be a World Poetry Day that we'll never forget, and I'm really glad that John and I are still able to bring you this collaborative event. Thank you, John, for introducing the event and explaining what we're doing here. For those that don't know me, I'm Mel and I'm the Staffordshire Poet Laureate. And I thought this year, for my poetry, for World Poetry Day, I would explore Welsh poems, the traditional Welsh englyn milwyr, which means poetry of soldiers. And these are very short poems of only 3 lines each and 7 syllables per line. They're actually the British equivalent of haikus. And the idea is that each end of the line needs to rhyme. And they were designed so that soldiers could quickly and easily get news or a message back to loved ones. But they can also be known as epigrammatic poetry as well. So they're in the style of an epigram, which means they need to be concise, clever and quite amusing. I've written 3 different ones in sort of quite different styles really, quite different moods. So the first one is more traditional, and this is how it goes. Fianwyl, I miss your bright smile shining with love and light, each dark, cold and restless night. So that contains a bit of Welsh because Fianwyl means my dearest. This next poem is hopefully a little bit more motivational. Each new day the sun will rise, orb of fire lighting up the skies, motivation burning bright. And I felt that because of obviously the current situation in the world, the fear of coronavirus and the reason why we're all doing this online and being self-isolated, I couldn't not write about it. So although the form of poetry I've chosen is very short and definitely doesn't go in depth or even do the feelings justice or begin to, I wanted to write a little bit about social isolating. So this is what I came up with. Isolated, distancing. Virus outbreak menacing, our ways of life are changing. Shortly we'll be introducing the next poet, but I just want to say thank you ever so much for making the effort to join us today, because I feel really strongly that as a poetry community we can help bring solidarity to each other in these really difficult times. So John and I plan to do many more of these online events as we go through this sort of period of social isolation, and we hope that this will help people's mental health and well-being and help for people to feel less isolated. Even if physically we're away from each other, we can feel that we are still connected, and I think that creates a bit of a sense of solidarity, which is a good thing. So thank you very much. Our next World Poetry Day poet is a new member of Stone Scribblers, Andrew Lowe. He's sent in 2 of his poems. He likes to write rhyming verse that are generally observational about experiences that he undertakes, mainly on his vacations. So he sent 2 pieces in, The Flashing Devil, which is about Las Vegas casino life, and Lazy Afternoon, which is about a hot day by the pool in Spain.
The Flashing Devil. It's all to play for in the city of sin. Casinos are plenty, opportunities to win. All cultures endeavour to eke out the top prize from slots by the thousand, all differing in size. The wheels they rotate, little chance to stand still. I question, is the punter truly achieving their thrill? As the player believes, tension too much to bear, the next press of the button will be a new millionaire. Deep carpeted game floor plays host to all folk. Neon lights, white noise create atmosphere bespoke. Their goal, of course, is to retain your patron. Free drinks, they believe, only aids concentration. They come from Asia and Europe, small woman, large man. There are Yanks and Chinese and a few Mexican. What factor is common to them all in their need? One thing for sure is their insatiable greed. The casino is called Wins, an ironic play on name, but really whoever, the policy remains same. To trouser a percentage sure as night follows day, to hand to directors with no risk, outlay or play. Lazy afternoon. Another day dawns and the light has returned. Stay out of the hot sun is what I have learned. Sipping cocktails by the pool, the sky azure blue. It's just past high noon and the gauge shows 82. Immediate future it does pass, little sound to dispel. The pages turn in time and the limbs are oiled well. The splash of the swim stroke, oh, great to be alive. And a glance at the dial, now showing 85. The factor increased to prevent soreness or burn. Bathing and lounging both take equal turn. It's nearly 2:30. Apart from sweats, all is fine. Quick check of the therm, it's displaying 89. This climb means skincare is tops for sure. Spanish sun and air quality, they are just so pure. Not a cloud has come by to disrupt my view. Monitoring the degrees, now up to 92. Sun, no relent, just sweat, squint and bear. My session doth end and I'm cooked medium rare. Best go inside as it's now 94. Quick reminder, this is May and summer brings much more.
The following poem is by a member of the Stone Scribblers, Robert Walls. He's emailed it in and would like us to read it out on his behalf, and it is about Hebridean culture. It's called Crushed at Culloden. Lost on the battlefield, that noble cause, scattered the bonny Stuart dream. Butchered by Cumberland musket and sword, Camerons massacred, Claymore defeat assured. Fleeing to fastness of mountains far, fugitive in the lonely purple moor, Charles the Jacobite prince, stag at bay, hidden deep amongst the bray. Westering on to distant Hebrides, glens remote in myths of secrecy, embrace the romantic blue-blooded refugee beyond the arms of brutal redcoat soldiery. Eriskay, Oost and Raysay each kneel at his feet, kilted clansmen do guard the tragic scene, but gentle Flora beneath the stars doth reel, then over the sea to sky, for France away to steal. Ermine-shouldered Coolin weeps in cloud, dazzling white sands slip neath the tide high. Salmon forsake their loch haunts in sorrow, pipers lament from Arran to Muckle Row. Into mists of legend the bow of hearts to fade, loyalty's devotion in folklore memory long. Waverley to romance, white cockade to wear unfazed, to the king across the water, we drams to be raised. Will ye nay come back again? Lisa Johnston from WORDStafford is our next performer. In a moment you'll see a video of Lisa performing her Cambodian Katty Waqas poetry that she's researched and put a whole booklet together for, especially for World Poetry Day this year. And I'm just going to read you some of the information, the background info that Lisa has sent me about this style of poetry. Katty Waqas is a simple form of poetry that originates from Cambodia. It follows a pattern of 4 lines of 4 syllables each, where lines 2 and 3 rhyme. When a poem consists of more than one stanza, the last line of the previous stanza rhymes with the second and third lines of the following one. The history of it is that before the 19th century, Cambodian records were highly susceptible to the jungle climate. So most religious texts and prayer books were wrapped up in cloth to protect them from heat and moisture damage. The Khmer Rouge-led Cambodian genocide resulted in the destruction of the country's temples and libraries in an effort to suppress the perceived Western influence. And as a result, Pol Pot and his troops wiped out much of the country's cultural heritage. Of the historical poetry recovered, nearly 3/4 fit into the form of Pathiavat. This could be in part due to its simplicity, and also as a result of Buddhist monks who use this verse format for meditative chants. Cambodian poetry is usually read aloud or sung, with the performance of Pathiavat held in high regard due to its emotional content. There are names for the many different emotions used to perform Pathiavat poems, such as Kam Houng, which means angry, and Tum Nuhonha, which means grief, and I'm really not sure if I've pronounced those correctly, but I hope I have. And Pathiavat is thought to work best when it's used to describe nature.
Pathiavat poetry from Cambodia. In the park. On a park bench, pause, rest a while. Wide, friendly smile catches my eye. Look returned, then mask reapplied. Moments pass by, hide behind a book. Sentence read twice, don't dare to look. Meaning mistook, watch feet appear. Black shoelaces, which was my fear. Now, to make clear, was just a grin, a politeness, not to begin, state of chagrin, we're both now in. Fisherman. Boat floats downstream, grey waves lap hulls, high cries of gulls pierce morning mist. Nets cast outwards by weathered fist, lines stretch then twist, sink and entrap. Silver curtain tails thrash, fins flap before lines snap, haul catch on deck. Hidden emotion. Vessel of tears, lips smile, eyes stone, feelings not shown, saved for quiet times. Songbird. Black glass eye gleams, sharp sideways glance, notes hung from branch, bold yet watchful. Stream. Silver ripple as light hits fish, dive, diminish, watch current drift. Season change. Each soft petal calls spring's name, now winter's shame is forgotten. Buddhism. Monk sits in contemplation, meditation allows mind freedom. Simplicity becomes wisdom, no more kingdom of wealth and greed. Beware power's lure, shake off the need to court or feed its deception. Mindfulness brings new perception, exploration of life's reason.
David Thompson of the Stone Scribblers has decided to explore villanelles for his World Poetry Day poem. A villanelle is a poem written in 5 tercets with a final quatrain on 2 rhymes. A tercet means a triplet. So essentially it's a poem with 5 triplets as stanzas and then a final stanza of 4 lines because that's a quatrain. And although a villanelle is French in origin, David has decided that his subject in the poem is going to be Australian. So we've got a real nice variety in this poem. And it's called Kangaroo. The kangaroo, he came to tea. Why he came I do not know. It wasn't me he came to see. If not you and if not me, in our cottage long ago, the kangaroo he came to tea. Why he came we can't agree. Was it just to be on show? It wasn't me he came to see. Rather early, you'll agree. Had he nowhere else to go? The kangaroo he came to tea. I say now, with certainty, that kangaroo he did not know. It wasn't me he came to see. He's not the roo he used to be. He hasn't got much up and go. The kangaroo he came to tea. It wasn't me he came to see. Katty Waqas is a regular of WORDStafford. Today she's recorded 3 poems which are all observations of the world and things that are happening in the world around us and in society today.
A poem. I am old and wise. I have a child who is very mild. We are homeless because of the war. We are cold, hungry and very weak. We live in little shelters throughout the week. We have no hope without help, so please understand how we feel. Please help us, we will have a great deal. We are sad and lonely, no one to care, so please help us before we despair. Time is running out and we don't have time to shout, so hear our plea and please, please help us. The panda. The panda is bear-like, friendly, he's also black and white, but he does not bite. Can this creature be furry and fluffy as can be? He is big and nice, but not cold like ice. But he is soft, his lovely eyes are hidden. He eats fruit, he does not eat boots. He also eats bamboo shoots. He is cute as can be and cuddly, like the cutest bear I've ever known. He is big and strong. He lives in Japan. He loves his world, ever so green. He also likes trees. This world full of hate and regret has always seemed to have a tale to tell. No matter who you are, animal or human, problems will always seem to arise. This world is confusing, full of hate and betrayal. This world is not amusing. This world a million miles away. This day, so sad and lonely, this day in so much pain, I have nothing to gain. This world I hate. I long for a world of good, no evil, no hate or pain. I long for a fantasy world that will never be told. As I grow old, only I will change. This world, however, shall not.
Chris Barton from the Stone Scribblers has sent in a funny poem, and it's called Bloody Parents. Mrs. Sherman values highly her 2 children, Zach and Kylie. So Mrs. Sherman's golden rule is to drive them both to school. Walking there just would not do, the cold, the rain, the sunshine too. She fears that dragons, orcs and all hide behind each garden wall. And Sherman Mansions is a mile from school, so it would take a while. Besides, it clearly would be wrong to tax their little legs so long. Now Mrs. Sherman has a trait which she describes as running late. So every day the Sherman tank rolls smoothly past the shops and bank. Past smaller cars which need less room, their owners fated to their doom, which is to park so far away that Mrs. Sherman therefore may drive straight into her special spot. Pavement, yellow lines, the lot. This is but a minor sample of how she sets a good example. And Chris has written a little aside at the bottom of the poem that says, "Dear teachers, all this information is for your private delectation." Our next performer, Josiah Taylor, is a regular at WORDStafford. When he's not competing in the slam, he's often one of the judges and he performs in the open mic section as well. Joe is a musician and a poet, and he's currently studying for a master's at Staffordshire University. He focuses a lot on American rhythmic poetry, and this particular video that he's put together is a spoken word rap piece, which stands for Rhythm Assisted Poetry, and it originates from the USA in song form. He's created the video himself in After Effects because he wanted to do something different and to provide lots of variety for us to watch this morning.
The dreams, seep it through the seams. Quote it by all means. Float it on the dreams, seep it through the seams. Lost to the streams forever. Float it on the dreams, seep it through the seams. Quote it by all means. Float it on the dreams, seep it through the seams. Lost to the streams. Chromatic beams, search for the light beam. Afraid of polluted screens and the Wilhelm screams. Under a regime of extremes, we do what we deem requiem, landing supreme. To counting the beans on an empty plate, esteemed for ladies and gents, too much to take or be redeemed by machinated entities and angels, mere means and hardly seen. Contrary to belief, between fabrics set in scene, the foreshadowing and foreseen, taken from an infernal machine who paints by numbers and lean digits, unempathetic and coldly calculated. The fascist lost his humanity, emasculated to the embalming fluid congealed, applied to the deathly cold skin. Floated on the dreams, seep it through the seams. Quote it by all means. Floated on the dreams, seep it through the seams. Lost to the streams forever. Floated on the dreams, seep it through the seams. Quote it by all means. Floated on the dreams, seep it through the seams. Lost to the streams. Slow me down. My head spinning round. Hold me down, hold me down. I can't just sit around. Slow me down, slow me down. My head spinning round. Hold me down, hold me down. I can't just sit around.
This next poem is by Beryl Crawford of the Stone Scribblers, and she finds inspiration in the English woodland. This poem is entitled A Walk in the Wood. I am the English oak, here I stand. I built a navy for a queen, kept a king from capture. My birth was from an amber jewel, cradled in a perfect cup, living bread for those who seek, threaded beads for children. I shall never die but change, falling leaf and branch to earth, where green shoots rise in rich decay of winter's mulch. Unlike the studious boy who used to walk here, remembered by his brother now sitting on a bench. No food or physic could save his life, not bread and cheese from hawthorn bud, no magic garlic bulb or saucy medlar fruit, no dock leaves cooling balm, twined with stinging nettle, nor hearty foxglove dandelion, St. John's wort could wet his mettle. Tax us at last, the poisonous yew, vinca the blue-eyed periwinkle, a pair to try to kill and cure. Roses bloom here now, Brambles and ivy cloak his dreams. I hear his chatter still in streams. Leanne Cooper, our next poet, is a West Midlands-based poet, and she often comes to take part in WORDStafford. She's also one of the members and the organisers of Lost Haiku, a poetry project. The idea of Lost Haiku is that people write poems in haiku form, and then they're printed out, laminated, and sent to people to distribute, and people have taken them all around the world to leave in places for other people to find. So the idea is that it gets poetry really out into the community and out into the world. The project was founded by Josiah, and Leanne now helps to run it. She does all of the admin duties for the Facebook page, and she takes Lost Haiku to literature festivals and to workshops. So in a moment you'll hear some of the Lost Haiku poems, and you'll see some of the locations they've been lost in. They've travelled across the UK, and they've gone abroad, reaching as far away as the USA, Mallorca. They've been to Greece. I know that because I've actually taken one with me to Crete and hung one up there. And it's a great project to be part of, because you know that it's exciting for other people to find the poems. And you can look on the hashtag that's on there for the Twitter page and the Facebook page. So it helps to connect people across the world. Find beauty in life. You may find it hard at times, but it is always there. All that I desire is to know you are happy. My heart aches for it. Be someone's sunshine. Make it beautiful to live. Start changing the world. Our memories fade, lost like footsteps in the sand. Savour these moments. Our next performer today is John Waqas. John is the other half of WORDStafford. He's a poet, a musician, a filmmaker, a photographer, and he is the person behind the technology allowing you to see this video today. He's the person that's put it all together and edited it and worked really hard to bring you the World Poetry Day celebrations to our screens so that we can still all take part and still access the world of poetry. So it's a big thank you to John for helping to make it all accessible to us and continue to keep us connected through this very strange time of self-isolation. I would like to introduce his poems, the 3 that he's recorded today, as Cynical Rants.
This I called The Lament of a Former European. The subject matter is pretty obvious. We were never united, so divided we will fall. Solidarity rejected, we now begin to erect a wall. Peacetime nations, we stand together no more because of paranoia and lies with little truth at all. The colours in the Union Jack now reek of stupidity as some of us reject the offered hand of any other ethnicity. Have we taken back the power we no longer deserve, or is that just another delusion obviously absurd? We now lay ourselves at the mercy of giants from distant continents, rubbing their hands in glee as they laugh at our predicament. So we gaze towards a future that feels somewhat dystopian. This is my lament, that of a former European. I never came up with a title for this one, but it's fundamentally about the British Empire, its past and its future, perhaps. Come and see our special places, where the unsuspecting get acid in their faces. Come and see us loud and proud, especially where drinking on the streets is still allowed. Bask in the glory of our exceptional empire, as long as your permission slip hasn't expired. Roam around our depleted lands, a fortune delicately balanced in the banker's hands. Wonder at our lush spaces all around, empty shops and factories, everything else a pound. Breathe our air, it is certainly free. NOx, carbon monoxide and PM10s are complimentary. Marvel at our colourful streets, red cartons and green cups ever compete. Maybe our streets were once paved with gold, but we've still got Betfred, Ladbrokes and PPI missold. Visit our public-funded royalty, in places built with blood and fealty. Ready yourself on bended knee to kiss the golden rings of aristocracy. Curtsy and bow to the results of a shallow gene pool. Betrayal, racial purity and blithering fools. Stay if you like, we need fresh blood more than ever, like the Romans, Vikings, Normans in peace or at war. Our lands are vividly green and heavily ploughed, artificially fertile while the chemicals are allowed. Not many forests left for bears, wolves and Robin Hood's men, but plenty of empty warehouses, industrial estates and toxic contamination. Food is plentiful in our prosperous country. 3 Greggs per town and quite a few KFC. Charity shops propping up society's needs, while the hidden invisible still profit from greed. Guns are still illegal. You may think you're in a safe haven, but property and possessions are fair game to be taken by those with different standards who never think of anyone else, somehow never taught wrong from right and only out for themselves. I paint a bleak picture, and often rightly so. Society is breaking and the cracks are starting to show. The overclass and underclass are nailing our nation's coffins shut, and the rest of us just trying to carry on have surely had enough. But there are reasons to be proud here still. Communities forge onwards with unbendable will. Rich veins of creativity and, yes, decency and love are there to be found if you look, in spite of all the above. The empires past are unsustainable and full of bloat. Old school power victors sit atop and still they gloat. Despite rife corruption and wealth so massively unbalanced, great things can happen here if given even half a chance. I see much about this country that I view with distaste, but I'll not dismiss my homeland in disappointed haste. I'll join with those who want better things for our society, equality, mobility, and the basic right to be free. Human nature is kind and good, as a general rule. The troubles that we endure are caused by a minority of fools. But we endure we shall. Try we will, and thrive again we might. Hopefully wise and compassionate too. Yeah, that would be nice. This one is probably one of my favourite rants. It appeared on Class War Karaoke release with a load of other noise and spoken word artists. And it's called We Are Not Living in Pooland. We are not living in Pooland. There's honey, but only for those with lots of money. There are certainly donkeys abound, many of them praying in Parliament or on the boards of unreachable entities. Golden carrots crunched as they look down their grey fairy noses with lofty arrogance, as they spit out half-masticated shrapnel which the masses below them have to assimilate. There are housing estates of tiggers snoring their way through apathy or resentment, so much they can't say and are now too ambivalent to say because, you know, they're doing okay-ish. Claws once sharpened for survival are now blunted into bigoted outbursts, and teeth once essential, now without enamel and rotting in the bitter acid of moral decay. This is a bedtime story where none of the characters can be trusted and a happy ending looks very unlikely. This is a bedtime story where, if you fall asleep, afterwards you will wake up to find that liberty is not quite what you remembered. This is a bedtime story filled with enemies above and below, both feeding off their hatred of the other and making victims of everybody else. This is a bedtime story you will not enjoy hearing, and yet it is likely that you yourself will tell it to your offspring, or indeed anyone you can find who might be listening. A tradition of inherited passive defeat because the population was just about comfortable enough, kept comfortable enough not to rattle cages, burn flags, and simply want change. No, this is not Pooland.
This next video is by Sandra Chambers. Sandra is the head judge at WORDStafford. She's been supporting us with our poetry ever since we set up WORDStafford, and she's written an African praise poem for World Poetry Day this year. I won't tell you any more about it because Sandra introduces it in the video.
Hello, I'm Sandra Chambers from Penkridge, and this is my poem for World Poetry Day. It's an African praise poem. Now, an African praise poem doesn't rhyme, and it's full of statements about someone of great stature. There has to be 6 elements to an African praise poem, and they are heritage, height, colour, animal, nature, and walk. So that's what I've attempted to do. Here we go. I hope you enjoy it. Hail, great silver-crowned king, wise man of the lush green forests, burnt golden plains, glistening ice sheets, deep oceans blue. Demigod of the natural world. Hail, David Attenborough, towering intellect with 32 degrees. Observations of the animal kingdom unsurpassed. Many moons ago, trekking to discover the fearsome Komodo dragon, astonishing displays by the birds of paradise, all in black and white. Up to present day, revelations, explosions of colour on our blue planet, where vanishing species struggle to survive. Do whales weep? Gorillas cry? Do polar bears tread a sorrowful path? In your honour, name species of daisy, lizard, fossil, beetle, shrimp, spider, and butterfly. Globe-trotter extraordinary, most travelled human in history, possibly. For 9 decades you have roamed the earth, 250,000 miles across every continent, and we have been able to travel with you, over land, underwater, through the air, in awe and wonder at the beauty of our living world. Hail, David Attenborough, sir. We have so much to be grateful for. You opened our eyes, great silver-crowned king of planet Earth. Thank you for listening.
This last video that you'll see this morning is a poem called Echoes. It's a collaboration between John and me, and we recorded and made this poetry video as part of the Staffordshire Pocket Film Festival 2020. This is a project that is organised by Staffordshire Libraries and Staffordshire Archives and Heritage. And I was privileged to work with a group of children from Penkridge Middle School who put together their own poems based on some film footage we were shown of a 1960s pageant travelling through Stafford. The film footage of the pageant gave me the idea of links of my own family's past in Staffordshire, the links to the industry that has always been apparent and present in the town, but not so much now. So I put together a poem, and John and I travelled around all the different locations to film the poem. And then John did all of the background work, putting it together, editing it. He's done all of the sound, the music and the visuals for the poem. So I hope that you enjoy Echoes.
Castle on the hill, memories of days gone by, time stands still. Survey the land from high on a crumbling wall, all the town at my feet. Hills of Shropshire to the west, echoes of concerts from the past at Bingley Hall away to the east. The potters' fire kilns to the north, heat permeates beautiful clay creations they have made, and to the south streams and trees teem with wildlife amid coarse bracken in wild shades of green. On Cannock Chase, where as a child I and my father before me played. Always told to stick to the path for fear of adders and potholes, the latter caused by all the mines nearby where miners search through darker days for coal. In days gone by, Stafford town itself laid claim to an industry of shoes. Lotus lined the Sandham Road, and on Common Road at Evoed they manufactured glue. Now, Bostik, they still do. Stafford Jail remains standing on Jail Road. Heavy walls heave with the weight of wicked crimes that lie within. In past times crowds gathered and crowed, watching prisoners hang in the gallows facing truth for their sin. The old British reinforced concrete site, once a hive of industry, was reduced to rubble, to make way for new houses in place of the old factory. My nostalgic trip around Stafford would definitely not be complete if I didn't mention the English Electric Company of old, known simply as EE. You see, my grandpa worked there before I was born. He was an electrical engineer and inventor. He visualised, he imagined, he saw the future, creating electrical measuring systems, and he built one of the first TVs. English Electric's gone by many names over the decades. GEC, GE, Alstom in the 90s when my mum worked there too, but I think I'll always remember it as the old EE. I'm proud to know that my grandpa and other engineers like him must have guessed the future. Looking back now in retrospect, I wonder how any of us could have known how far technology would take us after those first TV sets, in enormous cabinets with a small screen but a huge bulbous tube, showing programmes by the BBC, 1 and 2. There was no Channel 4, 5, ITV satellite cable or Freeview. There was no Google to search, man was just setting foot on the moon. The internet not invented, and a computer would take up the space of an entire room, not fit in your hand. And Stafford fits in my hand and parts rest in my heart, as I look back to the past and see our futures on the faces of family members of days gone by in industry striving and working hard.
Finally, I'd just like to say thank you very much to you all for taking part in WORDStafford and the Stone Scribblers World Poetry Day 2020. It's been a really unusual way to spend World Poetry Day online, looking at each other through our screens, but I'm so glad that we're still able to share poetry and connect together to celebrate words and language. The whole point of World Poetry Day that founders believe is that poetry reaffirms our common humanity by revealing to us that individuals everywhere in the world share the same questions and feelings. Now that's a statement by UNESCO, the founders of World Poetry Day, but it couldn't be more true, and particularly now when we're all individually isolated away from each other, but we're all humans and we all share the same worries, the same feelings, the same questions. And I'm really glad that we have this creative outlet through poetry to be able to share our words, whether they're happy, sad, whatever emotion we need to let out. We have the ability to do that through poetry, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much, and we will see you all soon.